hello everybody, and thank you very much for the opportunity to talk today. I am Debbie Bevitt and I am from Newcastle University from the School of Biomedical Sciences, where we run a range of bioscience programmes, including biomedical sciences, biochemistry, physiology, pharmacology and genetics. We achieved our advanced accreditation for our MSci Biomedical Sciences programme about 2 or 3 years ago now, and then the general accreditation last year, which is where this particular piece of practice was picked up. So what I'm going to talk about is a system that we use for allowing students to assess each other's contribution to a piece of teamwork or group work. I'm sure that you're all doing group work and teamwork. Obviously, it's becoming more and more important as we talk about team science. Obviously, team working is a really important aspect of employability for our students. But I'm sure you've also encountered problems when carrying out teamwork. With students perhaps feeling a bit dissatisfied if they've got that student in their group who really doesn't pull their weight and they feel is holding them back or is getting marks on the basis of work by other students. And also that perhaps if they've got a student who isn't performing at the same level as they are or isn't engaging as much as they are, that is pulling their marks down for that piece of group work. And so to address this, about 5 or 6 years ago now I think, I came across a piece of software from Loughborough called WebPA. So I'm in a slightly unusual position here in that I'm from Newcastle University, but actually the good practice that I'm going to be telling you about is being developed at Loughborough. So if there's anybody here from Loughborough, thank you very much. And I'm going to give you a nice shout out. So basically, WebPA, it's an open source piece of software. It's free to use. I've put the website up there and you can find out all the information that you might need if you would like to use this software. And in essence, what it does is it allows you to assign a mark to a group, but then the mark for the individual student is weighted according to their assessment of their own contribution, if you want them to do that, plus the contribution of the different members of the team. So the diagrams you can see here sort of sum it up. So, oh dear, I've done the fatal mistake of switching it off. There we go. So if, for example, you award a mark of 66% to the group, and then they go off and score each other on various aspects of their contribution, I'll come back to that in a moment, then there may be a couple of individuals in the group who the group decide have put in more over and above their share of the work, and they will end up being assigned a slightly higher mark than the others, and those who have contributed less will end up with a slightly lower mark. Okay. So that's the gist of it. It's like a cake which gets sliced up according to the peer assessment that goes on. So I mentioned you can, it's set up so that the students will mark each other's contribution to the group work, but there's also the option to allow them to self-assess. So this comes back to what was mentioned earlier about getting used to a bit of reflection, self-reflection. Now I have to say that has pros and cons. I do use the self-reflection option, but it has to be used with some caution because there's certainly some gender bias in the self-assessment, I would say, and also some cultural bias in the self-assessment. So it is something that you do need to keep a bit of an eye on to make sure that individuals aren't desperately over-assessing themselves or under-assessing themselves. There's also the option for each mark that's assigned for the students to give some free text feedback. Now, I do personally insist that the students do this so that if there are any students who end up with a particularly low mark because they haven't contributed well, that I can then have a conversation with that student and explain the reasons why. Or if I get a sense that there might be a little bit of dysfunction in the group in general, I can have a conversation with them about that. So that free text function, I think, is quite useful. And you can set that up to be private, which is the way I've run it up until now, or indeed for the students to see that, so that they're giving each other constructive criticism. I haven't used that myself, but I've got colleagues in other schools in Newcastle who have done that and found that a really useful way to use the tool as well. Please don't ask me any too technical questions about it, but there is a sort of widget on Blackboard. We use Blackboard as our virtual learning environment, and there is a plugin that will allow so that the students go into their module on Blackboard, and there's a direct link through to web PA assessment there. Again, if anybody's interested, I can put you in touch with our technical support people who set that up for us. And then finally, you can apply a penalty for non-completion of this peer assessment. And this is really to get around the fact that some students might feel that they don't want to take part, they don't want to assess each other, so you can apply a penalty if you wish to do so. Again, that's optional, and you can set the penalty however you wish. I should also, I suppose the final thing to say is that you can also set the proportion of the mark which is weighted. So you may find that if you weight the entire mark, you can end up with some quite wide divergence, I suppose. So you can end up with some students getting 98% and some getting 36%. It can get a bit out of hand. So you can set it, for example, to weight 50% of the mark, which is usually where I set it, and that seems to work fairly well for us anyway. Okay. So this, sorry it's very small, but this is just a screenshot to show you the general idea of part of the setup. So here, for example, it was a poster presentation that I've used this for. You can add some introduction to explain to the students what they need to do. And then you set your own questions. So in this case, I was asking them about their contribution to the background research for the poster, their contribution to the actual design and production of the poster, and then there's another question which is about their contribution to the presentation and answering questions on the poster. So this means that, again, you're getting across to the students the idea that everybody might be bringing something different to the team. So there may be one person who's done really great work on the background research, but is absolutely terrified when they stand up to do the presentation, and vice versa. You might get somebody who's very confident at the presentation, but a complete disaster when it comes to putting the poster together. So again, getting across this idea that you're a team and everybody might be bringing something different to the table. And I think that's it from me. So if anybody has any questions, not too technical, I'll be very happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.